The stars were dying one by one, and Captain Hana could do nothing but watch. She stood on the bridge of her ship, the Silent Wind, as the last message from Kepler 442b played for the third time. The transmission crackled with static and the sound of weapons fire in the background. Admiral Taemin's voice came through broken and tired. "This is Admiral Taemin of the Coalition Defense Fleet. Kepler 442b has fallen. The Vorthak have broken. Through our final defenses, all ships are to scatter and run. Do not try to rescue us. Save yourselves. Save your people. The war is over. We have lost." The message ended with a bright flash on the screen as the Admiral's ship exploded, taking 3 Vorthak destroyers with it. Hana closed her eyes and felt the weight of 1,000 worlds pressing down on her shoulders. Around her bridge, the crew of the Silent Wind worked in silence. They were Zalari, like her, with blue skin and silver hair that glowed softly in the dim light. Once, the Zalari had been a proud race with 12 worlds and billions of people. Now only a few thousand remained, scattered across the galaxy in stolen ships and hidden bases. "Captain," said Lieutenant Daeho from his station, "we are receiving messages from the other ships in our group. They want to know what we do now." Hana looked at the tactical display. 7 ships remained in their small fleet. 7 ships carrying the last 300 Zalari in the galaxy. Before the war, such a number would have meant nothing. Now it was everything they had left. The Vorthak had been conquering the galaxy for over 1,000 years. They were tall, gray creatures with 4 arms and eyes like black glass. Their technology was beyond anything other races could match. Their ships could appear anywhere without warning. Their weapons could destroy entire planets. Their armies could not be stopped. But it was not just their technology that made them unstoppable. The Vorthak were smart in ways that other races could not understand. They studied each new race they found. They learned their weaknesses. They turned their enemies' own thoughts against them. When they came to a new world, they did not just attack. They would send messages that filled people with fear. They would show what happened to worlds that fought back. They would offer deals to leaders who would sell out their own people. By the time their ships arrived, most worlds were already broken inside. The Zalari homeworld had held out for 6 months. The coalition of free worlds had lasted 3 years after that. Kepler 442b, the last fortress, had fought for another 3 years before falling today. "Captain," said Commander Sujin from the weapons station, "what are your orders?" Hana stared at the stars outside her window. Each point of light represented a world. Most of them now belonged to the Vorthak. The few that remained free would not stay that way for long. She thought about her daughter, Mi Young, who had died when their homeworld burned. She thought about her husband, Jin Woo, who had stayed behind to help others escape and was never seen again. She thought about all the Zalari children who would never grow up to see their people's glory restored. The smart thing to do would be to run. Find some empty corner of the galaxy where they could hide until the Vorthak stopped looking for them. Build a small colony on some forgotten world and hope their children might survive, even if their civilization did not. But then Hana remembered something. In the old archives of her people, there were stories, ancient legends from the time before. The Vorthak began their conquest. Stories about another race that had fought the Vorthak's ancestors long ago. The stories said this race had been small and weak compared to their enemies. But they had fought anyway. They had been clever in ways that surprised everyone. And then, one day they had simply vanished from the galaxy. Most people thought the stories were just myths. But Hana's grandmother had been a keeper of the old knowledge. She had shown Hana star charts that dated back thousands of years, charts that showed the location of the lost race's homeworld, a small blue planet, third from its star, in a system that most people had forgotten existed. Hana turned back to her crew. Set course for coordinates 247.1 by 84.6 by 139.8, maximum speed. "Captain," said Su Jin with concern in her voice. "Those coordinates will take us toward the edge of the galaxy, away from all the refugee routes." "I know," Hana said quietly. "But Captain," Deho added, "we will be alone out there. If the Vorthak find us, there will be no help coming." Hana nodded. She understood their fear. But she also understood something else. The galaxy was lost. Every free world would fall within the next few years. Every refugee fleet would eventually be hunted down and destroyed. There was no safety anywhere, unless the old stories were true. "Send a message to the other ships," she told her communications officer. "Tell them we are going to look for help. Any ship that wants to follow us can come. Any ship that wants to try their luck elsewhere is free to go." 3 of the 7 ships chose to follow the silent wind. The other 4 wished them well and set course for the dark spaces between the galaxies, hoping to find somewhere the Vorthak would never look. As her small fleet jumped into hyperspace, Hana thought about what they might find at those coordinates. Maybe nothing. Maybe a dead world with the bones of a race that had been extinct for thousands of years. Or maybe, if she was very lucky, they would find something else. Something that could change the course of the war. Something that could give the galaxy hope again. Behind them, the news of Kepler 442b's fall spread across the remaining free worlds. Panic followed. Governments collapsed. Billions of beings began the long journey into exile, carrying what they could and leaving everything else behind. The galaxy was giving up. The galaxy was admitting defeat. The galaxy was surrendering all hope. But in a small system near the edge of the spiral arm, something else was happening. Something the galaxy did not know about. Something that would change everything. The 3rd planet from a yellow star was waking up. And when it did, the war would become something entirely different. Captain Hana did not know this yet, but she would learn soon enough. They all would. Dr. Jiwoo pressed her hand against the cold window of Luna Base and watched Earth turn slowly below. The blue planet looked peaceful from here, but she knew better. Every continent was busy preparing for a war that most people still did not believe would come. "The final ships are ready," said General Dong Hyun as he walked into the command center. His uniform was simple and clean, but his eyes were tired. He had not slept well in months. Jiwoo turned away from the window. "How many?" 300 Mai carriers, 12 super dreadnoughts, 8,000 support ships, 2 million soldiers ready for combat." The general sat down heavily in his chair. "It still does not feel like enough." Commander So-young looked up from her computer screen. "The enemy has been conquering the galaxy for 1,000 years. They have billions of ships. We have known about them for only 15 years. 15 years, Jiwoo repeated quietly. She remembered that day clearly. The deep space telescopes had detected something strange in the Kepler system, flashes of light that looked like weapons fire, then nothing but silence. The governments of Earth had argued for months about what to do. Some wanted to send messages into space to make contact with whoever was out there. Others wanted to hide and hope the fighting would never reach Earth, but President Nari had made a different choice. She had ordered Earth to prepare for war while staying completely silent. No radio signals, no space travel beyond the solar system. Nothing that would tell the galaxy that Earth even existed. The decision had made many people angry. They said Earth was being cowardly. They said humans should help the other races in the galaxy fight against the Vorthak. But Jiwoo knew the president had been right. If Earth had revealed itself 15 years ago, the Vorthak would have conquered it within months. Humanity would have been just another dead race, forgotten and gone. Instead, Earth had used those 15 years to build the most powerful military force in human history. "Show me the fleet again," Jiwoo said. So-young touched her screen and the wall display came to life. It showed the hidden fleet waiting in the asteroid belt. From the outside, the asteroids looked normal, but inside each one, was a carrier ship filled with fighter craft. The fighters themselves were marvels of human engineering. Each one was controlled by an artificial intelligence that could think faster than any living pilot. They were smaller than most alien ships, but they were also faster and harder to hit. The 12 super dreadnoughts were even more impressive. Each one was the size of a small city. Their hulls were painted black to hide them in space. Their weapons could destroy planets. But the most important thing about the human fleet was something the Vorthak would never expect. Every single ship was designed to fight until it was completely destroyed. There were no retreat protocols, no surrender options. When human ships entered battle, they would win or they would die trying. "General," said Lieutenant Hyon A from her station, "we are receiving a signal from the outer sensors. 4 ships approaching from outside the solar system." Dong Hyun stood up quickly. "Vorthak?" "No, sir. The ships are much smaller, and they are sending a distress signal." Jiwoo felt her heart beat faster. After 15 years of silence, someone finally comes to Earth. The general activated the fleet communication system. "All ships, this is Luna Base. We have visitors. Prepare for contact, but do not reveal yourselves. Wait for my orders." The A-4 alien ships were small and damaged. They moved slowly, like wounded animals looking for a safe place to hide. Jiwoo watched them on the display and felt sorry for whoever was inside. "They are broadcasting on multiple frequencies," Hyun A reported. "The message says they are looking for help. They claim they are not enemies." "Could be a trap," So Young said. "Could be," the general agreed. "But if they are real refugees, they might have information we need." Jiwoo nodded. "Either way, we need to know what they know." The general made his decision. "Send out the Soul's Revenge. Tell Captain Minho to bring them in carefully. Full security protocols." The Soul's Revenge was one of Earth's newest ships. It was fast and heavily armed, but it was also small enough not to seem too threatening. Captain Minho was one of Earth's best officers, smart enough to handle first contact with alien refugees. An hour later, the alien ships were brought to a hidden station near Mars. Jiwoo watched through cameras as 4 aliens were escorted into a meeting room. They had blue skin and silver hair that glowed softly. Their clothes were torn and dirty. They looked like they had been running for a very long time. Captain Minho entered the room and sat down across from them. He was a tall man with kind eyes, but Jiwoo could see the tension in his shoulders. "I am Captain Minho of the Earth Defense Force," he said in simple words. The aliens wore translation devices that would help them understand. One of the aliens, a female with short silver hair, looked up at him with surprise. "Earth Defense Force? But this system was listed as uninhabited in all our charts." "Your charts were wrong," Minho said simply. "What are your names? Where do you come from?" "I am Captain Hana of the Zelari people," the female alien said. "These are my officers. We were the last of our kind." She told Minho about the war, about the Vorthak and their 1,000-year conquest, about the coalition of free worlds and how it had finally fallen, about the billions of beings who were dead or enslaved. When she finished, the room was quiet for a long moment. "How many Vorthak ships are there?" Minho asked. "Millions," Hana said. "Maybe tens of millions. They have been building their fleet for 1,000 years. And their technology? Far beyond anything we had. Their weapons can destroy planets. Their ships can appear anywhere without warning. Their computers can control minds." Minho nodded slowly. "And how long until they reach this system?" Hana looked confused. "You do not understand. The war is over. The galaxy has fallen. We came here to hide, not to fight." "But they will come here eventually," Minho said. "Yes, in a few years, maybe." When they finish securing the rest of the galaxy. Minho stood up. Then we have time to prepare. Prepare for what? Hana asked. You cannot fight them. No one can fight them. That is why we ran. Minho smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Captain Hana, you do not understand. We have been preparing to fight them for 15 years, and we are ready. He pressed a button on his communicator. Outside the station, the asteroid belt suddenly filled with light as the hidden human fleet revealed itself. 300 carriers, 12 super dreadnoughts, 8,000 support ships. Hana stared at the display screen with her mouth open. Impossible, she whispered. The galaxy gave up too soon, Minho said quietly. But humanity never learned how to surrender. Sub-Admiral Young-Soo felt his ship shake as another Vorthak energy beam hit the hull. The bridge lights flickered, but the Busan fighter kept moving forward through the chaos of battle. All fighters, this is command, he spoke into his headset. Remember the plan. Hit fast, hit hard, then get out. Do not try to be heroes. Around him, the Sol system had become a battlefield, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Vorthak 7th Armada had arrived 6 hours ago, expecting an easy victory. Instead, they found themselves fighting for their lives. The alien ships were huge and powerful, just like Captain Hana had warned. Their weapons could punch through the strongest armor. Their shields could stop almost any attack. But they had one weakness that their enemies had never used against them before. They were slow. Human fighters were small and fast. They moved like angry wasps around the giant Vorthak ships, hitting weak spots and disappearing before the enemy could fight back. The Vorthak had never faced anything like this before. Sir, called Lieutenant Bo-kyung from her station. 3 more enemy destroyers are moving toward Earth. Should we intercept? Young-Soo checked his tactical display. The battle was going well, but the Vorthak kept sending more ships toward the planet. They seemed to think that if they could just reach Earth, they could force humanity to surrender. They had no idea how wrong they were. Negative, Young-Soo said. Let them pass. The home defense teams will handle them. He was right. As the Vorthak destroyers approached Earth, the planet's hidden defenses came to life. Missile batteries on the moon opened fire. Weapon platforms hidden in Earth's orbit began shooting. The 3 alien ships were destroyed before they could even see what was attacking them. But the real battle was happening in deep space, where Admiral Jin-Soo was leading the main human fleet against the center of the Vorthak formation. This is Admiral Jin-Soo to all ships, his voice came over the radio. Begin Operation Thunderstrike. All carriers launch your fighters. All battleships target the enemy command ship. The human attack was like nothing the Vorthak had ever experienced. Instead of fighting ship-to-ship battles, humans sent thousands of small fighters to attack all at once. Instead of trying to match the Vorthak's heavy weapons, they used speed and numbers to overwhelm their defenses. Captain Yun-Woo watched the battle from his special operations ship hidden behind Mars. His mission was different from the others. While the main fleet kept the Vorthak busy, he and his team would strike at their real weakness. Team Alpha, this is Captain Hyun-Woo. The enemy is distracted. Begin the infiltration mission. His ship was small and almost invisible. It slipped past the fighting and headed toward the Vorthak command station. The station was huge, bigger than most cities, and it controlled all the enemy ships in the system. Remember the plan, Hyun-Woo told his team as they prepared for battle. Dr. Yoonji's virus needs to be planted directly into their main computer. We get in, plant the virus, and get out. Simple. Nothing about it was simple. The Vorthak station was heavily defended, but humans had one advantage that the aliens did not expect. They had been studying Vorthak technology for 15 years, ever since the first pieces of alien wreckage had been found drifting in space. Dr. Yoonji had spent 5 years creating a computer virus that could turn Vorthak technology against itself. The virus was small and smart, designed to hide inside alien computer systems until it was time to strike. Station breach in 30 seconds, reported Sergeant Da Yoon, from the pilot's seat. "Defense systems are scanning us, but our stealth is holding." Hyun-woo checked his weapon one more time. It looked like a normal human rifle, but it fired rounds made from Vorthak metal. The aliens' own armor could not stop their own materials when fired at high speed. The infiltration team cut through the station's hull like it was paper. Vorthak metal was strong, but human cutting tools had been designed specifically to defeat it. They moved through empty corridors toward the computer center. "Strange," whispered Lieutenant Soo-jin as they walked. "Where are all the guards?" Hyun-woo had noticed the same thing. The station seemed almost empty. Either the Vorthak were very confident, or they had sent most of their people to join the battle outside. They found the computer center without any trouble. It was a huge room filled with alien technology that glowed with soft blue light. In the center was the main computer core, a crystal structure taller than a building. "Dr. Yoonji, this is Captain Hyun-woo. We are at the target, ready to upload your virus." "Good," came the scientist's voice over the radio. "Connect the upload device to any data port. The virus will do the rest." Da-yoon found a port and plugged in the small device. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the blue lights in the room began to flicker. "Upload complete," Yoonji reported. "The virus is spreading through their network. You have maybe 10 minutes before they notice." But they did not need 10 minutes. The virus worked faster than anyone had expected. All around the Sol system, Vorthak ships suddenly stopped firing at human targets. Instead, they began shooting at each other. The aliens' own weapons turned against them as the virus spread through their command networks. "What is happening?" came a panicked voice over the Vorthak communication channels. "Our ships are attacking." "Us!" Admiral Young-soo watched in amazement as the enemy fleet tore itself apart. Vorthak ships that had seemed unstoppable just minutes ago were now exploding one by one as their own systems betrayed them. "All human ships, this is Admiral Jin-soo. Do not fire on the enemy vessels. Let them destroy themselves. Focus on rescue operations for any survivors." It was not just mercy that made the humans want to capture Vorthak survivors. Every alien they took prisoner was a source of information about the enemy's plans and weaknesses. But even as the battle in the Sol system came to an end, the real war was just beginning. While the Vorthak had been focused on attacking Earth, human fleets had been secretly moving to attack Vorthak bases throughout the galaxy. "Sir," reported Communications Officer Min Jung from her station on the command ship, "we are receiving success reports from Operation Distant Thunder. Our fleets have attacked 17 enemy systems simultaneously. The attacks were devastating. Human ships appeared without warning at Vorthak bases that had been considered completely safe. They struck fast and hard, destroying enemy ships and installations before disappearing back into space." At Proxima Centauri, the Vorthak lost their main supply depot. At Wolf 359, their research station was captured along with hundreds of alien scientists. At Kepler 442b, the same world that had been the Coalition's last stand, human Marines landed to free the surviving prisoners. Colonel Da-eun led the rescue mission to Kepler 442b. What she found there made her sick with anger. The Vorthak had been using captured aliens for experiments, trying to understand why some species fought harder than others. "This is Colonel Da-eun to all units," she said as her soldiers secured the prison complex. "We have found survivors, thousands of them. Begin immediate medical evacuations." Among the prisoners were aliens from dozens of different races. They had been tortured and experimented on for months. But they were alive, and they were free. The galaxy that had given up, all hope was starting to believe again. The Vorthak, who had seemed unstoppable for 1,000 years, were suddenly losing battles everywhere. And in the Sol system, Admiral Jin-soo looked at the wreckage of the Vorthak's 7th Armada and smiled grimly. "This is just the beginning," he said, quietly. "Now they know we exist. Now the real war starts." Overlord Vexithara stood in the war room of the Vorthak High Command, staring at reports that made no sense. In 3 months, his empire had lost more territory than it had in the previous 100 years. The humans were doing something impossible. Explain. This to me again, he said to his intelligence chief, Commander Zephron. His 4 arms gestured at the holographic display showing human fleet movements. How do these creatures fight? They do not fight like any race we have encountered before, Zephron replied, his black eyes reflecting the red light of the display. When we attack their ships, they do not retreat. When we destroy their fleets, new ones appear within days. When we capture their soldiers, they refuse to give us information even under extreme torture. Vexathara had conquered 47 different races during his long career. He understood how intelligent beings thought. When faced with superior force, they would negotiate. When their fleets were destroyed, they would seek peace. When their soldiers were captured, they would eventually break and provide useful intelligence. But humans did none of these things. Show me the battle recordings from the Rigel system again, he ordered. The holographic display changed to show a recent battle. A single human cruiser had been surrounded by 12 Vorthak destroyers. Any reasonable commander would have surrendered or tried to escape. Instead, the human ship had attacked all 12 enemy vessels at once. The humans had lost that battle, but they had destroyed 8 Vorthak ships in the process. When the enemy cruiser finally exploded, it had done so in a way that caused maximum damage to the remaining Vorthak vessels. They chose to die rather than surrender, Vexthara said quietly. Why? We do not know, Zephron admitted. Our psychological experts cannot explain it. The humans seem to value abstract concepts more than their own lives. This was the Vorthak's greatest weakness, though they did not realize it yet. For thousands of years, their species had lived as a collective mind. Individual Vorthak were intelligent, but they thought of themselves as parts of a greater whole. The idea of dying for personal beliefs was completely foreign to them. Dr. Sionmi had figured this out weeks ago in her laboratory on Luna Base. She had been studying captured Vorthak soldiers, trying to understand how their minds worked. What she had discovered changed everything humanity knew about their enemy. General Dong Hyun, she said as she entered the command briefing room. I have something important to show you. The general looked up from the tactical reports he was reading. The war was going well, but every victory cost human lives. He wanted to find a way to end it quickly. What have you learned, Doctor? Say on me. Activated the holographic projector in the center of the room. It showed a 3-dimensional model of a Vorthak brain, glowing with different colors to show neural activity. The Vorthak are not like us, she began. Their entire species evolved from creatures that lived in large groups and shared thoughts. Even now, individual Vorthak are connected to their command structure in ways we are only beginning to understand. She pointed to areas of the brain that pulsed with blue light. When a Vorthak soldier receives orders, it does not just hear them. It feels them as if the orders were its own thoughts. This makes them incredibly obedient, but it also makes them vulnerable. Vulnerable how? They cannot understand individual choice the way we do. When they see human soldiers choosing to die rather than surrender, it confuses them completely. They have no psychological framework for understanding personal sacrifice. General Dong Hyun nodded slowly. So they cannot predict what we will do. Exactly. Every battle doctrine they have developed over the past 1,000 years assumes that their enemies will act rationally to preserve their own lives. But humans do not always act rationally. Sometimes we act according to principles that are more important to us than survival. This explained why human tactics were so effective against the Vorthak. The aliens could not understand why humans would risk everything to save strangers. They could not predict why human ships would attack impossible odds instead of retreating. They could not comprehend why captured human soldiers would die before giving up military secrets. Meanwhile, General Jin A was using this advantage to rebuild the galactic resistance. On the liberated world of Kepler 442b, she was meeting with leaders from 20 different alien races. The humans offer to teach us their fighting methods, said Captain Hana, who had become the spokesperson for the survivors. They say we can learn to fight back. The meeting room was filled with beings from across the galaxy. Most of them had given up hope months ago. But now, seeing the humans win battle after battle, they were starting to believe that victory might be possible. What do they want in return? Asked Commander Velthar of the Centauri Republic. His people had been slaves to the Vorthak for 50 years. Nothing, Hana replied. They say that freedom is not something you trade for. It is something you fight for. This was another concept the Vorthak could not understand. In their empire, everything was a transaction. Loyalty was bought with rewards. Obedience was enforced with punishment. They could not imagine a species that would fight for others without expecting anything in return. But humans were doing exactly that. On dozens of worlds, human military advisors were teaching alien resistance fighters how to build weapons, how to plan attacks, and how to disappear into hiding when the enemy came looking for them. Commander Kyung-ho was leading one of these training missions on a moon in the Vega system. The local population were small, furry creatures called the Rilani. Before the war, they had been farmers and artists. Now, they were learning to be soldiers. The most important thing, Kyung-ho told them through his translator, is to never give up. The Vorthak win by making you believe you cannot fight back, but you can. You just have to be smart about it. The Rilani listened carefully as he explained how to sabotage enemy equipment, how to gather intelligence, and how to strike at targets when the enemy was not expecting it. These were not the tactics of a traditional army. They were the tactics of people who refused to accept defeat. But the most shocking discovery came when Commander Kyung-ho's deep space reconnaissance team reached the edge of Vorthak territory. What they found there changed everything humanity thought about the war. "This is Scout Ship Daegu calling Luna Base," Kyung-ho reported. "We have reached the coordinates of the suspected Vorthak homeworld. You need to see this." The images he transmitted showed a planet that was dying. The atmosphere was brown with pollution. The oceans were black with industrial waste. Cities covered every surface, but many of them looked empty and broken. "Dear God," whispered Dr. Jiwoo as she watched the images. "What happened to their world?" "They destroyed it," Kyung-ho replied. "The entire planet is an ecological disaster. From what our sensors can tell, it can only support life for maybe another 50 years. Suddenly, everything made sense. The Vorthak had not been conquering the galaxy for glory or power. They had been running away from the death of their own world. Their 1,000-year empire was not about domination. It was about survival. They had been looking for a new home, and they had been willing to destroy every other race in the galaxy to find it. But now they faced an enemy that would not let them destroy anything, an enemy that fought not just for victory, but for the idea that every world and every people had the right to exist. The war was about to change again. But this time, the Vorthak would be the ones who had to choose between surrender and extinction. Admiral Wu Jin stood on the bridge of the UES Incheon and watched the Vorthak homeworld grow larger on the screen. Behind his ship came the largest fleet in human history, 3,000 vessels carrying soldiers, scientists, and supplies from dozens of different worlds. But this was not an invasion fleet. It was something the galaxy had never seen before. "All ships, this is Admiral Wu Jin," he spoke into his communicator. "Remember, we are not here to destroy. We are here to offer hope. Weapons are only to be used if we are attacked first." The Vorthak homeworld looked even worse up close than it had in the reconnaissance reports. The brown atmosphere was so thick that sunlight could barely reach the surface. The planet's cities stretched from pole to pole, but many of them were dark and empty. "Sir," reported Captain Sung-ho from the tactical station, "we are detecting massive Vorthak fleet movements. At least 10,000 ships are moving to intercept us." Wu Jin nodded. He had expected this. The Vorthak would fight to defend their homeworld with everything they had left. But this time, the battle would be different. "Dr. Boram," he said, to the scientist standing beside him. "Are you ready?" Dr. Boram looked nervous, but determined. In her hands was a small device that contained the most important message in galactic history. She had spent months working with alien scientists from 20 different races to create it. "The translation programs are loaded," she said. "The message will be broadcast in every known language simultaneously." The Vorthak fleet approached like a wall of death. Their ships were huge and powerful, built for conquest and destruction. But as they came closer, something strange happened. They slowed down and spread out instead of attacking immediately. "They are trying to surround us," Sung-Ho reported. "Standard Vorthak battle formation." "Let them," Wu Jin said calmly. "We are not going anywhere." The human fleet held its position as 10,000 Vorthak ships formed a sphere around them. It looked like the humans were trapped, but Wu Jin was counting on something the enemy would not expect. "This is Admiral Wu Jin of the Human Defense Fleet," he broadcast on all frequencies. "I wish to speak with the Vorthak leadership. We have an offer that could save both our peoples." For long minutes, there was no response. Then a voice came over the communication system. It was deep and harsh, speaking in the Vorthak language that sounded like grinding metal. "This is Overlord Vexithara, Supreme Commander of the Vorthak Empire. You are surrounded and outnumbered. Surrender now, and we will make your deaths quick." "I have no intention of surrendering," Wu Jin replied. "But I also have no intention of fighting. Dr. Boram, begin the broadcast." What happened next had never occurred in the 1,000-year history of the Vorthak Empire. Instead of weapons fire or surrender demands, the human fleet began transmitting data directly to every Vorthak ship. The data included detailed scans of the Vorthak homeworld, showing the ecological damage in precise detail. It showed how the pollution levels were increasing and how the planet's life support systems were failing. It showed that the Vorthak had maybe 30 years left before their world became completely uninhabitable. But then, the transmission changed. It began showing other worlds, clean worlds with blue skies and green forests, empty worlds that could support Vorthak life, worlds that could be reached using human technology. "What is this?" Vexithara demanded. "This is an offer," Wu Jin replied. "We know why you have been conquering the galaxy. You are not evil beings who enjoy causing suffering. You are a dying race trying to survive." The transmission continued. It showed detailed plans for terraforming equipment that could clean up the Vorthak homeworld. It showed colony ships that could carry millions of Vorthak to new worlds. It showed medical technology that could help the Vorthak adapt to different environments. "We can give you what you have been looking for," Wu Jin said. "We can give you new worlds to live on, clean worlds where your people can thrive. All we ask in return is that you stop the killing." There was silence for several minutes. Then Vexithara spoke again, and his voice sounded different, confused, almost afraid. "Why would you do this? We are enemies. We have killed billions of your allies." Dr. Boram stepped forward and activated her translator. When she spoke, her words were broadcast to every Vorthak ship in perfect translation. "Because that is what humans do," she said simply. "We help people who need help, even people who have hurt us, even people who have been our enemies." This was the moment that broke the Vorthak understanding of war. They had conquered the galaxy using fear, hatred, and the promise of violence. They had never encountered an enemy that offered help instead of revenge. On Vorthak ships throughout the fleet, commanders looked at each other with confusion. Their entire military doctrine was based on the assumption that intelligent beings were naturally selfish and violent. But the humans were offering to save the Vorthak race while asking for nothing except peace. "This is impossible," Vexithara said, but his voice was weak. "There must be a trap, a hidden price." "The only price is that the killing stops," Wu Jin replied. "No more conquered worlds. No more enslaved peoples. No more experiments on captured beings. In return, we will help you find new homes and clean up your old one. The offer was so unexpected that many Vorthak commanders did not know how to respond. They had been preparing for a final, desperate battle. Instead, they were being offered salvation. But not all of them were ready to accept it. "This is a trick!" shouted War Commander Zethkol from his battleship. "Humans are clever. They want us to lower our guard so they can destroy us." Zethkol ordered his ship to attack, but something amazing happened. Other Vorthak ships moved to block him. For the first time in their history, Vorthak were refusing to follow orders to fight. "Stand down, Zethkol," Vexathara commanded. "We will consider the human offer." The battle that everyone expected never happened. Instead, representatives from both sides met on a neutral space station to discuss terms. Dr. Boram led the human team, while Vexathara himself came to represent the Vorthak. The negotiations took 3 days. The Vorthak were suspicious and careful, expecting tricks and hidden traps. But slowly they began to understand that the humans were sincere in their offer. "We have found 17 worlds that could support Vorthak life," Boram explained, showing star charts on the meeting room display. "Some of them are empty. Others have small populations that would welcome peaceful neighbors." "And you would give these worlds to us freely?" Vexathara asked. "We would help you reach them and build colonies there," Boram corrected. "The worlds would belong to everyone who lives on them. Human, Vorthak, and any other species that wants to join." This was another concept the Vorthak had never considered: shared ownership, cooperation between different races, working together instead of conquering each other. The final agreement was signed on a world that had been destroyed during the war. Human engineers and Vorthak scientists worked together to begin rebuilding it. The planet became a symbol of what the galaxy could become when different races chose cooperation over conflict. 6 months later, President Nari stood on the observation deck of the new Galactic Council station and watched ships from 100 different worlds docking peacefully. The station had been built by joint human-Vorthak construction teams, using technology from both races. "The first colony ships are ready," reported Admiral Eugene. 10,000 Vorthak volunteers will begin the journey to New Vorthak next week." Nari nodded. "And the Homeworld Restoration Project?" "Ahead of schedule. The atmosphere processors are working better than expected. Dr. Boram thinks the planet will be fully habitable again within 50 years. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have imagined. The Vorthak Empire was gone, but the Vorthak people remained. They were learning to live as individuals instead of as parts of a collective mind. They were discovering that cooperation could accomplish more than conquest. And throughout the galaxy, species that had been enemies for thousands of years were learning to work together. The memorial station at Kepler 442b had become a pilgrimage site where beings from across the galaxy came to remember the cost of hatred and the value of peace. Ambassador Hana, now representing the reformed Zalari government, stood beside President Nari and watched the ships in the harbor. Her people were rebuilding their homeworld with help from human terraforming technology. "The galaxy gave up hope," she said quietly. "But humanity never learned how to give up," Nari smiled. "We did not save the galaxy by being the strongest or the smartest. We saved it by refusing to accept that some problems cannot be solved. The age of empire was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And in the vast darkness between the stars, 1,000 different species were learning that the universe was big enough for everyone.